Hi everybody, it's Friday the 7th of August and it's just after 11 o'clock and I just wanted to have a chat if I could today about the relationship between corporate and state powers. Sounds like a rather dull subject, but it has extreme relevance to all of us living in Western society today, because this is an ongoing problem and it is not going to go away. It is only going to become more and more exacerbated and of greater and greater portent to us, much more importance to us as ordinary citizens. You know, we live in Western democracies, and to get to the stage where we do live in Western democracies, we've had to go through a whole series of historical changes. We've had to go through dictatorships, tribalism, obviously monarchy, and then what happened was, approximately 2,000 years ago, the first bloomings of republicanism appeared, and the concept of republica, state of the people, a thing of the people. And now most modern, advanced, certainly in Western societies, are either de facto republics or de jure republics. They embrace the concept. They may not be de facto republics, but they embrace the concept of parliaments and people and their representatives, and the relationship between the people and the state. In the 20th century, that changed. That whole development, natural development, it's not a natural development, it was fought and people gave their lives to bring it about, but the development of free societies was challenged, certainly in Western Europe, to a greater or lesser extent, by three men, and they were Benito Mussolini, Adolf Hitler, and General Franco. And Benito Mussolini was the ideologue for the fascist concept, the idea of fascism, and he borrowed it from the Roman model, and they get their name from the rods. When the legions went into battle, or when the legions went anywhere to advance Roman imperial ideology, they carried with them, as a representative sort of little model of what Roman power meant, they carried these bundles of rods, and inside them were axes. And you can use your imagination to understand what the rods were for corporal punishment, and what the axes represented. Okay, so this little thing, these fasces, F-A-S-C-E-S, represented Roman legal and Roman imperial power, and that was it. But Benito Mussolini embraced this, and he called his political model in the 1910s and 1920s, when it started to emerge, he called it fascism, and he defined it as a coming together of state and corporate powers. And I think he realized that from his point of view, these corporations that he was dealing with, which would be Italian corporations, were powerful economic and political entities in their own right, and that it was, rather than fight them for him to get on, he would embrace them. But in embracing them, he distorted his original concept, which was to be a combining of state and corporate powers, where the state would hold sway over the corporations. What happened was the corporations held sway over the state, and we see that today in large numbers of Western democracies, where there's a complete compromise given out between the power of the state and the power of these corporations. And we've only got to look at Ireland. We've got to look at our own country, Ireland, where a group of banks, imagine a group of banks, were able, this actually defies this actually brings the whole economic model in Ireland into disrepute. It certainly brings economists into disrepute, because this is their professional business, and they were all aware of this, and that yet none of them did anything. Not one of these men involved in the government, involved in within the banking system, within the whole, or academia. I never heard one of them, apart from maybe one man, I never heard one of them raise his head above the parapet and say, this is unbelievable what's happening. And, you know, pick at the doll, or do something constructive, do something political. No. They all stood by and let our national debt get from $11 billion in 1998 to 1,700 billion euros today. And this debt in the main was run up by a group of banks. Imagine their loan book of a small group of banks, I think 4 or 5 banks at the top of the Irish banking system, exceeded the gross national product of our whole country by 3 times. It is truly hard to believe. It is truly of a magnitude of incompetency and lunacy that's hard to fathom. And yet these people, these economists, they're all, this is what they make their living at. You must remember, they make their living at studying economics on a daily basis. And they didn't see the threat that this represented to our country. Oh no, better not say anything. Let somebody else say something. Let's just take our salary and move on. Move on next month. So everybody's compromised by this. And if these professional men who understand this on a daily basis, who know what this is going, the impact that this is going to have, and now we see the impact. The impact is that we, as a small country of 4.2 million people, are going to have to bail out these banks. An organisation set up by our government called NAMA is going to have to borrow 90 billion euros. It's going to cost us every year to service that debt around 4 billion. This is to rescue a group of banks. And we've already discussed why they're going to be rescued. We've already discussed that. Because they have more power, they have more real economic and political power than the state. And the state let that happen. The state let these people get to this powerful position and did nothing about it. In 1998, they didn't have this power. This has only happened over the last 12 years. This has only happened while a man called Bertie Ahern, a bumbling moron who couldn't put 2 words together, and his main acolyte, who was the Minister of Finance for 6 years, who now runs this country, stood by and let this happen. And this is the first time ever the authority of a Western democratic state has been put into jeopardy. Because Ireland as a nation is a basket case. We have given over our moral and ethical authority to a load of banks. And that's what the definition of fascism is. Where the state's interest becomes subordinate to the corporate interest. And it augurs ill for us as a people, but it augurs worse for our children and our grandchildren. I want to talk some more about fascism further and how this thing developed, but we'll talk about it later. Thank you very much.